What is up, everybody? I am your host amongst the whiskey, and today I am joined once again by ace author Jes Smyth. Jes,
Hi.
welcome on.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's been a few months since we talked last. You were on the Old Forester review that we did together, right?
That's correct. Yep.
It seems that we have another single barrel for you to review. Today we're going to be getting into New England Barrel Company.
I am.
You excited for this? Very good. For everybody at home that doesn't know you yet, give me a little bit of background on everything Jes Smyth.
All right. That's a tall order there, Nick.
You can do it.
I am a published author. I have written two novels. My most recent novel, Dream for a Second, I published in May. And also in May, I started writing for Amongst the Whiskey. I started writing whiskey reviews. I was doing a lot of, Instagramming and posting and sharing my thoughts on whiskey there. And I wanted to do a little bit more. The character limit was a little constricting, so I was happy to have been invited on to write for you. I think I have like 22 articles now or something like that. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Are there a lot of parallels to writing kind of your style of book that you're writing versus writing whiskey reviews?
A little bit. I like to, like, in my tasting notes, I like to use little things that maybe the taste remind me of, some like whiskey metaphors sometimes that relate to, I don't know, experiences I've had or what have you. So, yeah, I'd say a little bit. Yeah.
There are parallels. That's cool.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part about being a writer?
I enjoy crafting fictional worlds, I would say. That's my favorite part. I like building characters. I like putting them through different situations. I like seeing what growth they go through and stuff like that. That's what I focus on is I call it emotional fiction. So,
That's
yeah, I would
fantastic.
just say, yeah, I would just say it's the characters and the stories that I put them through.
That's where your whiskey writing and your professional writing separate. You're not writing
Yes.
fiction for amongstthewhiskey.com, are you?
No, no. It's nice though, because I like to describe in detail, like you do, tasting notes and the experience that we have during, especially if a bottle is really good, which we're going to find out if this one is. Yeah, I think it's cool to be able to expand and be more long-winded with some tasting notes. So,
I can absolutely relate there. So, the big
yeah.
reason for involving you is to make sure that I can review this unbiased. So, I'm going to let you do most of the tasting here. I'll try to not to lead you to any kind of quality statements, but I'm really interested to hear what you think about New England Barrel Company in general. This is a very cool brand, a brand that I have known since really its inception. So my good friend James Saunders actually started New England Barrel Company. The label has evolved a little bit since its early days. And what we're sipping is actually some of his earliest stocks, the earliest barrels that he picked up from MGP. On the back, we got a distilled in Indiana statement. So this is an 11.5 year single barrel rye, a 95.5 rye from MGP. It is clocking in at 131.4 proof. Good high test whiskey. This is barrel number 1219, selected by myself, amongst some other enthusiasts, for Liquor Junction.
Awesome.
Do you like MGP?
I have mixed feelings on MGP.
Ooh, do tell me about these
Yeah.
feelings.
I am a self-proclaimed craft lover. I love craft whiskey. I love everything they stand for, their mission. They're like the small guys doing big things. So MGP for me, it's, if it's done right, it can be really, really good, but I feel like it's oversaturated the market to a certain extent. And it doesn't give the craft a fair shot just because they raise prices and like all of this stuff. So I've got mixed feelings. Got mixed feelings.
So you would say you prefer craft distillers over craft brands that are just building kind of their reputation on the backs of somebody else's whiskey. Are you in the camp that sourced whiskey is kind of something to raise your nose at?
I would not raise my nose at. If it's done well, if you are putting whiskey out into the market that's good, like really good, you can't raise your nose at that, right?
That's right.
But there is a little bit of, I don't know, yeah, there's a little bit of mixed feelings. It's best I can describe it.
Mixed feelings is totally fair. So, what do you think? Should we get this poured up? Maybe get it into a glass, start exploring it together?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Pretty sweet gold wax on this one.
Yeah, that was fun to get through.
Okay. Of course, tasting out of a Glencairn glass, our glassware of choice, is very important
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
proper nosing and tasting. Let's get to nosing.
It's it's such a good nose.
You know when you just know, like right away?
You just know. You just know. Yeah, this is one of those noses where you know by the nose. This is going to be fun.
I mean, sipping whiskey together is inherently fun.
Yes. True.
So,
Very true.
thank you so much for joining me on this tasting. I'm excited
Yes.
to explore a very dark,
It is
very wildly dark colored 11 and a half year 95.5 rye with you.
95.5. One of his oldest, you said, right?
Oh, yeah. So, not even just oldest by virtue of age statement, but oldest from the perspective of this was probably a barrel that James bought in 2020, I think, when
Mm.
he was just getting New England Barrel Company off the ground. What are you finding on the nose here?
Greatness. There's a buttery note on here. It's like melted butter that I get. And
Is buttery inherently good for you?
one
Is that a note that you like?
100%. Yeah, yeah. I like pot distilled whiskey a lot, and that's one of the common threads. It's just that oily, buttery, creamy type of quality. Even when you're not tasting it, you can pick it up on the nose. Just a really nice volume. Smells like velvet. If velvet had a smell,
Smells like velvet. That sounds like high praise to me.
it is. But yeah, it's buttery. There's also like pine needles that you would get during maybe a walk in like really intense sun, but you're in the shade, so it's not super hot. It's just that that sun is really like intense. Kind of like now, it's fall, right? So you get that hot sun, but the cool breeze. Um,
Oh yeah, I see rye being the the spirit of choice for fall and in winter season.
oh yeah,
This is the kind of pour I want to have from October to February.
yeah. It is a rye season type of. There is a rye season.
There is a rye season.
Hmm.
So we picked this one at the right time here.
Hmm.
So I'll give you a little backstory on the barrel selection for Liquor Junction here. We actually were able to invite out a handful of Massachusetts enthusiasts to taste through some samples with us. So James brought full bottle samples that he had pulled from the barrels for us, brought them to the Liquor Junction store, and we actually invited in three other members of the whiskey community to taste through with us. I thought that was really cool. It was people that
Yeah,
had never really done barrel picks before. And, you know, it's kind of a core mission statement of a lot of what I do on the Spirit Animal Society side, the Mass Bourbon Alliance side, you know, really trying to connect and build kind of a vibrant community, which I think is also the mission statement of New England Barrel Company. So for us to bring all that together for kind of the ability to pick from James's oldest stocks,
hmm,
I thought that was a really cool opportunity.
yeah. It's really neat.
Benchmark me on your feelings towards rye versus bourbon. You got a preference?
Oh yeah, I love rye. Yeah, I'm a rye hound. And not intentionally. When I first started really getting into whiskey, I noticed just a gravitation towards rye expressions, even like bourbons that have a high rye mash bill. I would notice I enjoyed those pours a lot more. So, and once I started getting more of a, I wouldn't call it a collection, but my bottles started to accumulate. I noticed that I had more rye in general than bourbon. but not on purpose. It's just kind of what I went towards. So yeah, I love rye. I can drink it all year round. I'm inherently like colder in general, so it's nice to have a nice warm pour. But yeah, I'm a rye hound for sure.
I love that. I think we have that in common as well.
Yeah. This is lovely though. I get there's like a cinnamon clove type of coffee cake going on in this nose. It's really this is definitely a fall pour.
Hmm.
It is so nice.
Funny you mentioned that. I think there was actually another whiskey writer that is making some press waves for New England Barrel Company right now.
Mm.
Frank actually wrote a article for Uprocks that I think had this particular pick pretty high up in the list.
May have seen it.
Have you? Let me
Wasn't it
let me
like
pull it up. Let me
yeah?
see if we can get some notes here.
Okay, yeah. Was it 13 or something?
I think it placed higher than that. It
Did it?
it placed top 10. I want to say maybe even was it sixth?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Let's take a look.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, it's six. Up
Oh.
Rocks, New England Barrel Company single barrel cast strength rye, selected for Liquor Junction. That is this pick. This pick right here. So pretty cool. Frank had the chance to also taste it. It looks like he has highlighted the fact that it is one of the biggest brands in the region. I mean, when I
Mm.
think about New England, there's no other producer in New England other than New England Barrel Company in my
Yeah.
mind. So
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty cool to have him highlight this.
That's
And
awesome.
he mentions it selling like hotcakes. That is the truth. That is the absolute truth. This thing sold like hotcakes, and I think it probably sold in the first day that it was out, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
remembering right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was special for a reason.
Yeah.
So I won't influence us too much with the tasting notes that he mentioned. That's something that I try to do when I'm writing reviews and thinking about my own thoughts on a whiskey. I try not to read other people's thoughts too
Yeah.
much so that that doesn't kind of stick in your brain as the power of suggestion.
Sure.
But we'll take a look. What does he say on the bottom line? The world of rye whiskey covers so much ground, from light and bright whiskeys to floral, grassy ones, and even lush dark pours. This single barrel selected for Liquor Junction is the last of the bunch, offering a dense, decadent whiskey that truly plumbs depths of flavor that you
Mm-hmm.
can only get from well aged rye. This is exactly the sort of pour that makes you appreciate the return of autumn, like you mentioned, because it's loaded with fall spices. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And will warm you up fast when the weather turns. That's pretty cool. Gotta say, you know, Frank is also a good friend of mine, so it's fun to see our worlds colliding in certain times.
Yeah. It's exciting.
That is cool. So,
Yeah.
back to our experience
Yes.
with New England Barrel Company rye. Kind of final thoughts on nose before we get into a sip here?
It's just lovely. There's caramel. I get like caramel that's milk chocolate that's filled with caramel, that really gooey caramel, and like buttercream frosting. A
For
little,
131 proof,
not even.
that it feels pretty balanced in the nose. Like I
You
could
can get
stick
your
my
nose
nose in
in
there.
it. Yeah, way in there.
Like
That's wild.
all the way in there.
I forgot that it was 131 proof nosing this, honestly. I forgot.
There you go.
Yeah.
You gotta be level set every once in a while. I'll remind you these little details along the way. Shall we get on with the sip?
Yeah, I really want to try this.
Let's try it.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers. Jess
Wow.
thinks.
Oh my gosh. So that creamy nose goes straight to the palate. It is like buttery. You get that little buttery note. Lemon custard a little bit, like fruit parfait, and the rye spice, cinnamon, clove. It's tingling my tongue, but it's not for 131. It's not too bad.
Go off, Jess. Look at you. You just that many notes just from one sip. No wonder you write so eloquently and just like when I read your articles, it's clear that you take time to explore any whiskey that you're tasting, even if it's not exciting. And
Mm.
sometimes when they are exciting, you can almost feel the difference in your writing. Like you
Yeah,
can feel your excitement towards the words that get planted on the page. It's
sure,
actually really cool to read through those and kind of read between the lines a little bit. I know you
sure.
offer a rating at the end too, but it's really fun sometimes to read between the lines on
Yeah,
tasting notes.
yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're a grand writer. There's a reason that you write for the best independent whiskey review site on the internet.
It is the best.
What do you think?
It's good. It's good. I'm going to take another sip so I can get more.
Let's.
It's just wild. That's 131 proof. There is a really nice, like, cakiness to it, but it's like a spice, like a ginger, like a type of ginger cake. If you could make a gingerbread cake, it would be a gingerbread cake.
I
Oh my
love that.
word. Ooh, this is really good. A little bit of lemon, a little bit of
Ooh,
bubble gum, a little bit
I
of
was
bubble gum
trying not
too.
to say it before you said it, but the lemon is like so
Yeah,
prevalent for me. I get like if I were to go back in time and get dragged to a bank against my will, it's me sitting there super excited with a lemon
lemon.
lollipop going, "Hey, this is worth coming into the bank for. I'm glad you guys have lemon lollipops."
Good. That linger too. It's just nice and warm. Yeah, I like this.
Good thing you have a bottle then.
That's what yeah, agreed.
Have you tried this before? It looked like your bottle was already open. You had
I
already kind of
did.
level set yourself with this pour a little bit
Yeah, I did. I had some last night. So, a little bit.
as a warm up for our discussion. That's doing your homework.
I did. Yeah, I sipped it and it inspired me to start writing some notes. So, that's when you know that something good is going on. And here
Can
we
we
are.
expect a written review of this pour sometime soon?
Perhaps, perhaps, yes. I think so. Depending on how the rest of the tasting goes, of course.
Oh, never fully satisfied until our usual three tastings is achieved. Walk me through a little bit of the importance for the three tasting experience.
Sure. I think with the first tasting, you're just getting familiar, obviously, with what you're experiencing. I think also, like with opening a bottle, sometimes it needs a little time to like open up or whatever. And I think with a second and third tasting, you're more familiar with what's happening on your palate, what's happening with the nose, and you're able to then get a better read of what the true tasting notes are with especially a third tasting. Sometimes I go for a fourth or a fifth if I'm having trouble coming down to like a solid rating for any type of whiskey. Yeah. So it's just allowing your mind to settle in to the pour. And sometimes that takes more than three times, but definitely three times is like the magic number, I think.
It's the minimum for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
To deliver a really complete set of kind of what to expect
Mm-hmm.
with how the palette changes day to day, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost impossible to capture it in a one hit wonder. A
Yeah.
one taste is just it's like this little figment that exists in time and space for like just a flash. It doesn't really string together a story. So I think it's very important to do that. Maybe expand on a little bit what happens if your experience day to day is not consistent. What happens if one day you really like something and
Yeah.
another day you don't like it? How do
Yeah.
you move forward from there?
Try again another day.
And
I
then
recently had that experience. I'm not sure which one it was, what whiskey I was tasting, but I remember having like feeling really good about it the first time I tasted it. I was like, this is great. I love this. Oh, yes. And then the second time I went to it, I was like, man, what's like it was night and day. So I was like, all right, I'm just maybe something happened that day where I just wasn't open to tasting it the way that I had the first time. So yeah, I just would say keep going back to it until you feel confident enough to give it a solid, you're really good, thumbs up or rating or whatever, but just keep going back to it. And there are also whiskeys that you can be like, with just one tasting, be like, okay, you can, we've had our time together and that's enough. So,
yeah, Yeah, there's definitely a skill to kind of nosing and tasting for faults, and when
Hmm.
those big faults are found, it's pretty easy to tell that it's not going to take more tastings, but
Right.
even then we're still going through the process of doing that to make sure that it was not us that day.
You're right. Those are the fun times.
And then I guess for when you've done three tastings and you have maybe two good experiences and one bad, how do you kind of deal with that? Are you going majority rules? Are you going because two good tastings happened, you're leaning towards those two? Or do you give like an average weighting? Tell me your process there.
Yeah, everything counts. So I will weigh in the good, I'll weigh in the bad, and that's when I come to my rating. So every single second that I have spent with this whiskey will be taken into account when I write about it and when I rate it. I
Excellent.
guess it's a balancing with everything.
That's the thorough amongst the whiskey.com way.
Hmm.
That's proof that those articles are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. This
What are you
now
thinking?
I'm getting pancakes hot off the griddle that are sprinkled with cinnamon and sugar.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. I'm being intentionally quiet
Why
because this
about
is
it?
your tasting.
Yeah.
I have obviously experienced this pour quite a few times. This was the barrel that I picked. So yeah, I'm being intentionally quiet
Yeah.
for the sake of you offering your thoughts because in general, women have better palates anyway. So
Wow. Yours is pretty good.
I try to keep it sharp. So you make me work overtime trying to keep up.
You're sweet. There's like a herbal note that is really nice. It's like a lemon type of black tea happening here. And then there's like, I want to say like peach, like a peach thing or
Like
apricot.
a peach preserve, peach flambe. Like, where are we going with
No,
this peach?
no, because you have like all those rye spices too. So it's probably more like a peach cobbler.
Ooh,
Yeah. I really like this nose a lot.
which do you like better, nose or palate?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to I'm taking another sip. Let's try.
Okay, thorough she is.
Mm. I think they're equal.
They're equal.
I do think the nose and the palate match really well. So after I mentioned that peach and apricot thing, now I'm getting like grilled peaches.
And is that like a long-term evolution of the pour, or are you just kind of focusing in and finally becoming in tune with it, or do you think
I
it's
think
kind of evolving it in the glass?
it could be both. I think that I'm getting comfortable with it, and I do think that this one is evolving in a way that there's just more flavors coming out. So it's just like a you're at a buffet and you're just going down the line, walking along, and this is like this pour. There's just more every time I come back to it on the nose and the palate, just more is there's more happening in it, which is great. That's what I personally want in a pour is something that continues to keep my attention. It's not one
Oh yeah,
noted and it's surprises that are in line with all the other stuff that I've already experienced, right? So it's not like something totally off the wall like parsley or basil or something. Like this is nice. It was lemon. It's the rye spices, but now it's like the peaches and the fruitiness coming in. But yeah, it's really nice.
how's the pacing? Does it feel rushed or a nice kind of storyline?
No, it feels nice and comfortable. It feels like I could probably sit with this for a really long time, and it would keep my attention for as long as it will hold up in the glass. So yeah, I like it.
What's your favorite rye whiskey right now?
That's a silly question. Michter's 10-year rye.
Oh,
Duh.
good choice.
God, it's so good. Yeah, it's really good. It's my favorite.
That was the chart topper for our rye article. So we did a similar one. That was our 24 top ryes worth drinking right now.
Yeah.
And Michter's 10-year rye was in full agreement. The rye leader, the, the one rye to rule them all.
It was so good. That whole list, though, has just so many good options, so many good bottles that you could go and get now. So I loved putting that list together with you, just because I think the rye renaissance is here, and rye needs the love that it deserves because it's so ryes can be so dynamic and interesting, and I really enjoy. And even an MGP rye can be good.
It can. There are a few in that list, I
Yeah,
believe. So I'll make
yeah.
sure to link that article down in the description on this one so people can take a look if you're rye curious, if you're a
Mhm.
bourbon drinker and go, oh, I don't like rye. I promise there is a rye for you. Rye is
100%.
such a diverse category, as is bourbon, as is American single malt, as
Mm.
is worldly single malts.
Yeah,
There's the whiskey world is so wonderfully diverse.
it is.
There's a time and place for all of it too.
That is what I'm learning, especially with malts in particular, and American single malts. But this is lovely.
But rye is top for you.
It is. It is. It is. For now, I feel like I can have an evolution just like this with the flavors. I feel like personally, I could have an evolution in years to come with my palate and what I've been exposed to, you know, uh, just refining my palate in a way that will change it in a good way.
Excellent.
Mm.
And have you tried any New England Barrel Company prior to this?
This is my first.
That is why we share in the whiskey world.
Mhm.
This is the magic of being able to send a 2 ounce liquid ministry sample of something that your friend has never tried. Like, share as much as you can,
Yeah.
because our ability to explore is obviously limited by typically our wallets, right? You can't go and buy every bottle there is. So it's really important to have a person or a palate that you trust, that you can listen to
Hmm.
and get good advice from. But also at the end of the day, I think you should be tasting for yourself, right? You can't just listen to somebody, and you can't just listen to a friend that says, "Oh, this is supposed to be really good because it's rare."
Hmm.
Taste it for yourself and find out.
Agreed.
What is something that you have tasted very recently that has captured your attention?
It's hard when you're tasting a good whiskey right in the moment.
To think about other whiskeys, yeah,
Yes. It's easy to think about good whiskeys if you're tasting a bad whiskey, though.
that is true.
100% way easier. Goodness, and let me think. What have I tasted that has captured my attention? I'm this. I can't.
I can't disagree with you. I mean, this is I'm
Right?
thoroughly enjoying every sip of this.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
Yeah, this is the power of good single barrel selection. So, jumping back to the point that I was making earlier, finding a palette that you appreciate and
Hmm.
can support, single barrel selections are a great way to figure that out. How consistent is somebody at picking good single barrels?
Yeah,
It's a skill as well. It takes time to develop.
yeah,
I've been at it a little while.
yeah.
This is probably my 9,642nd single barrel selection that I've been a part of. So very few make me really excited, make me want to go out and buy a case.
Yeah,
That's kind of my benchmark. If I'm really excited about something, I'll probably buy a case of it.
yeah. Which you did with this, right?
Yeah. How could you not?
Yeah. I have a few of your single barrels. I think it was probably ASW where I was like, oh, okay. I really started to like respect your palate because that was such a different flavor profile. But gosh, it hit all the marks. And since then, your single barrels that I've, bought or whatever have just all been really, really lovely. So, and when you said that you were coming out with this New England Barrel Company, I've been curious about them. I've known about them, so, and I wanted to have a bottle of theirs on my shelf. And I was like, if it's going to be your pick, I know based on previous experience that it will likely be good. So I feel okay buying the bottle before even trying it because I trust
You
your palate.
are too kind.
Well, you got a good palate.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is one that I'm definitely excited about. It's obviously great that it's getting kind of bonus press and
Yeah.
might even be the gateway for a lot of people to get exposure, like yourself, to
Hmm.
New England Barrel Company. Somebody that's never tried New England Barrel Company. If you're from California or Texas or
Yep.
Florida, the chances that you're going to see and have exposure to New England Barrel Company are pretty slim.
Right.
But I think this has staying power. I think
Yeah.
this is maybe a watershed moment. This may be
Mm.
James's claim to fame, maybe
Yeah.
even with
Yeah.
this 11.5 year run of rye. James put another one online, by the way. It was like a sister barrel to this.
Yeah.
Sold out in 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, he's figuring it out.
Yeah. That's great.
I think he's got a recipe for success.
Well, this is great.
I'm digging your exploration of this live, and I appreciate you being willing to do a video format review. I know that's not either of our preferred
No,
formats, so
I'm a
this
writer
is
for a
fantastic.
reason. I'm a writer for a reason. This is going in a direction that's nice. There's a little bit of I'm getting a little bit of like dill and also
Mm,
like a fruit Danish, right? But there's this little tiny bit of dill, which I really like. It's not, it's not bad. I like that little surprise where it's like, hey, keep paying attention to me.
sure.
I like that. Yeah.
That is typically the note that scares people off rye whiskey too.
I know, but it's so faint. It's so tiny. It's so very tiny.
Like 7,000 people just left the chat. You said dill, they're like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not touching that rye. I don't like dill. I'm running from this rye.
It's good though.
That is kind of that feels like the turning point. It feels like a precipice for rye that
Mm,
like you will either fall on the side of liking it or fall on the side of not liking it
sure.
because of that. Some people call it grassy, but some people
Sure.
call it like that dill characteristic.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a character or aroma or flavor that is inherent to rye. I don't think it's automatically in a rye. There are so many ryes that I wouldn't even think about broaching that as a tasting note.
No.
Like, just it is so far removed from the experience that I'm going through.
Yeah.
But I like that you found it here. I mean, it's a 95.5 rye, and a lot of historical reviews and tasting notes will find
Yeah.
a dill characteristic out of
Yeah.
95.5 MGP rye.
And to be fair, also, like the liquid's getting really low. So it could just be a late in the glass type of note coming out. Maybe it's getting a little tired.
Mm,
Who knows?
that's an interesting thing to kind of evaluate on a long-term review is how well does it stand up to a long-term exploration.
Right. Yeah.
How are you feeling late in the glass here? Tiny sip left.
Still smells great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's holding up. Ooh, a little bit of, there's just this little bit of bubble gum that I really like to find on noses. Very faint.
Excellent. Are you in a position where you feel like you're ready to give this a rating? Do you need your final sip? Would you like a little time to go sit in a corner, collect your notes? Are you not ready to rate this? You tell me.
I think I am. I think I'm ready to rate this. I am. I'm going to give it one more sip because I'm almost
Okay.
at the end here, and I think I will be able to rate it.
I trust.
Okay. I have a benchmark for ryes. You asked me what my favorite rye was earlier. It's the Michter's 10-year rye, 2023. Based on my benchmark and what I've experienced twice now, this is my second tasting. So I will give this another tasting. My rating may change on the third. At the moment, I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Wow.
That's
High
what I give it.
praise for
Yeah.
New England Barrel Company
Yeah.
11.5 year rye. It gets a 4 out of 5. That
Yeah.
is high praise.
4.5.
4.5 out of 5. Put that in the blooper reel. I downrated my own single barrel. So not self-serving, Nick. Oh goodness me. I managed to downrate my own single barrel selection. That's just how much I respect and will, wax poetic about my level of honesty. I thought Jes was being too kind with a 4.5. Actually, I'm gonna downrate it to a 4. No, Jes, no, it's worse than that. No. No, that's fantastic to hear. You are your own independent taster. You are a fantastic whiskey writer. You're a fantastic palate. Part of the reason why I made sure that you became a writer for amongstthewhiskey.com is you deliver unparalleled honesty, I think, in whiskey evaluation. And I think as you enter your 23rd whiskey review for amongstthewhiskey.com, I think you are now turning into a proper whiskey critic. Like, you have a very high bar for what you consider to be pinnacle quality.
I agree.
And this is pretty darn close.
It's good. I'm happy
Yeah.
to have a bottle. Very happy.
Yeah. I think New England Barrel Company is on a massive come up right now. I think James is really raising the bar on what he considers quality too. There is just not anything that I've tasted recently from New England Barrel Company that has not wowed me.
Yeah.
This being one of my favorites. Having the opportunity to select this for the local Massachusetts market was really an honor. I was stoked. I've done a few single barrel selections with James through Liquor Junction before, but this is really our first opportunity to pick from the best of his stocks.
Yeah.
And this lives up.
Yeah.
I liken it more to the 2024 release of Michter's 10-year rye. I agree with you. It doesn't quite live up to that just wonderful, exceptional bar of the 2023 pinnacle Michter's 10-year rye. But it's pretty darn close. It's a delicious, delicious rye.
I wouldn't be surprised if after 3, 4, or 5 tastings, it continues to climb up there in my mind.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The gap might narrow between the 4.5 and the 5.
I'm pretty sure that it will.
The inner workings of the whiskey reviewer world.
It's so much fun. I'm so glad that I get to do it and then get to write about it and contribute in a way that isn't just a character limit on Instagram. I really like reviewing.
It is a lot of fun.
It is.
Well, all right, Jes, I appreciate you taking the time to explore New England Barrel Company with me. I think it's a brand well worth exploring.
Yes.
So this was really fun to get to taste through. Any interesting things in the world of Jes Smyth we need to know about?
Other than I'm finally writing my 3rd book. I'm flowing on the drafting on that. Yeah. The summer kind of wasn't able to get into it. Summer is just summer. So I'm currently writing my 3rd book and I'm feeling really good about it. So other than that, yeah, just sipping more good whiskey and writing about it.
Living the dream.
It's kind of dreamy. It's very dreamy.
That's fantastic to hear. I'm sure there are hordes of people waiting to read your 3rd book. With how good your previous 2 books are, there is undoubtedly a long line of people waiting to get in for when that book hits
very
publish.
Nice. Yeah, it's very nice of you.
And the whiskey world waits with bated breath for your next review, too. Hopefully it's New England Barrel Company.
I think it's going to have to be now.
Yeah, I think when it can synergize with the video format review that we've explored here, it will be an interesting opportunity for people to see which format's better for them.
Yeah.
The written word versus sitting and staring at people sipping whiskey.
Which is what this is.
Which was fun. And hopefully people think that this is fun too.
Yes. I hope so.
Well, all right, Jes, I will let you get on with your day. Thank you so much for joining me on the Amongst the Whiskey channel. It has really been a pleasure getting to sip with you tonight.
I enjoyed it very much. Thanks for having me on again.
We will hopefully see you again at some point. And until then, keep it amongst the whiskey.